So what I want to do now is go in and paint the weights of this bird. So what I'm going to do is select the joint hierarchy and go to Skin, Paint Weights tool. Now this is the next tool we're going to use. We're going to open up the tool settings here. And this Painting Weights tool, it allows me to select different parts of the hierarchy and see which part of the mesh has been painted. Let's make sure our finch here is selected, and now we can really see what's going on. So we want to select the mesh itself, and then the paint weights tool will show us the hierarchy that's attached to it. There are two ways here in the weight painting tool down here that we can either use a color ramp or we can use this black and white ramp. So this gives us a little bit more information. And this is another reason why having a kind of low poly model for rigging is really important, because what we're doing is we're painting individual vertices, either influence for each joint or not. And if this model has tens of thousands of faces, it's just a really big pain to try to paint the weight. So in this case, what we do, I will maybe turn this on for a minute so we can really fine tune this. What we do to paint weights, we have that same brush, so I can again hit B and kind of drag the size of the brush. What I'm doing is either painting a value of 0 or a value of 1 or something in between. So if I want to paint a value of 0 right now, it's telling me what joint I'm on, the head joint. I don't want that head joint to influence any part of the wing. I just want that head joint to influence the head. So I'm going to set a value of 0 down here, and I'm going to go ahead and it might actually, the blue, it might be okay if I turn off color ramp. It's saying that it's black, so let's not work with the color ramp. I think it's fine. But if I want that head not to affect the chest here, I can go ahead and start to paint the weights off of the chest and just leave it on the head. And I'm going to go down the joint hierarchy and kind of do this. The eyes, I don't want them to have any influence over the head, so we can kind of get rid of all of that. Now I'm only going to do one side. I'm going to, again, everything I've done has been to the left side of the body. I'm going to maintain that workflow. I'm going to go through the joint hierarchy here. This shoulder joint, I don't really want it to be influencing this part of the wing. And again, this is the shoulder joint, this kind of mid, maybe it's not a shoulder joint, maybe it's more of a backbone or something, but I'm going to go ahead and paint. I want to paint influence off of all of these vertices. And I'm painting the vertices, and then the associating faces around those vertices will, but I think maybe that works for me. I don't want it to have influence over this part of the wing, but maybe here's okay. Let's go down to this joint. And this is where I want to get rid of the influence on the body. I don't want that joint to influence the way the body deforms at all, but I do want it to influence the way that that wing deforms. And we're just going to have to go and test this, painting these weights. I can now go here and see how this wing is starting to move, right? And that's starting to work a little bit better, where it's just affecting the wing. Now I might want to paint some of those vertices, and then I go in here, zero out all of those values, and then go back to my skin tool, make sure I have my mesh selected, go back to my paint skin weights tool here. And I might want to go in a little bit and say, well, on these vertices, maybe I want a value of 0.5, make my brush a little bit smaller, hitting B and making that smaller. Let's have this a value of 0.5 again. And these vertices, let's paint those back in a bit. Maybe 0.5 is a little too much. Maybe we can say 3, a value of 0.3. And here, paint operation is replace. You can also smooth. Smooth is nice. Now let's get this back to the value of 0. These I don't want to have any influence over these vertices here, but at least for this part of the wing now, and this is why topology is so important, because I can see, okay, I can see the way the mesh functions here, so that when I'm painting these weights, it's making sense, like how it's going to deform. And I think I really want to make sure I click off. So I've set the value, or maybe I want to hit enter. So the value gets set. Now I can paint. Now, there we go, something like this. That looks pretty good on this side. I'm going to zoom out and make sure nothing else is selected here. I think I would like this joint to affect the whole wing. So I might set this to a value of 1. Let's go in and paint the whole wing. I mean, it's going to move that whole wing. It's going to also move the joints because of the way the joint hierarchy functions. It's also going to move. If we rotate this joint will rotate as well because it's a child object of it. But I'm just going to go in and paint like full influence over this whole wing from that wing joint. Now let's go to the mid wing. This doesn't seem to have a lot of influence, so let's go in and start to paint some influence on this part of the wing. Let's make sure that this joint is moving all of these. Let's go back to this wing. Okay, and so because I've added influence to the mid wing, doesn't really, it's taken off the influence from this joint. So it's distributing the weight of these. And as I'm kind of working through the joint hierarchy, this is something that, can be a little particular when you're doing it. You've done this work here, but then because I've added a lot of strong influence from this joint, it started to decrease the influence from this joint. Let's go for the wing tip here, and maybe the wing tip can just kind of affect these. Okay, so now that's affecting this. I'm going to go set this to a value of 0, and let's erase some of this. Maybe this influence just wants to be on from this mid wing and the tip. That looks pretty good on this side. Let's go down now to, I'm not going to do the right wing. What's really nice is I can, just like I'm able to mirror joints, I'm able to mirror geometry, I'm able to mirror joints, I'm able to also mirror paint weights. So this is helpful. Let's go down and do the tail. And this tail joint, maybe I don't want it to have as much influence over this midsection of the body. I think and again, that tail joint is kind of just like a pelvic bone maybe in the bird. Now, because there are no, this is in the center of the body, I do want to go around the whole model. Here's a good example of this joint having influence a little bit over the wings. I don't want that. So let's start to erase that. And again, just on, I can do it on both sides. That's okay. But I really only have to work on one side. Now this back tail, let's see, these are the knee and foot. We'll do that let's do that now. Actually, the knee, I only want it to influence the foot. So let's get rid of all the influence that knee joint's going to have on the tail or the body of the bird. I mean, it's really that knee joint, because of just the way that when we bound the skin, that kind of automatic operation, it created some weird influence here. I don't want any of that. That's why painting skin weights is important. And let's go to that foot tool. You can see here again, like it's influencing a lot of this other part of the mesh that I don't want it to. I'm going to zoom in on the foot, and the foot I don't want to really have influence over anything other than that bottom foot to just kind of rotate it up and down. So I might want to actually make my brush a little bit smaller, give it a bigger value, maybe there. Now, again, the topology of this foot is kind of crude. So like I said, when I was saying work a little bit harder on your model, you'll have greater control over it, right? So this kind of doesn't have really enough definition to really be able to do any real articulation of these feet. I think these feet are going to kind of be just pulled back into the model when it's flying. And let's look at the tail end here, and let's paint some influence going to a value of maybe maybe we want this. And now I might be able to go to smooth, and kind of what smooth does is it makes those transitions between the different values. Go back to replace, do that. Go back to smooth. It just makes those transitions better. I can go kind of back up through the hierarchy that I worked on here and use smooth, maybe smooth out. Tail, bone looks fine. I didn't do anything with those right side. Maybe I'll use smooth here a bit. I might not want to smooth here. I do want to have kind of like a dramatic drop off where this joint doesn't influence any of the side of the body. I think I would like this joint to have, let's go to replace here, have more effect on the whole mid-range of the model. And then I'm going to go to smooth. Let's smooth that out a bit. You know, like if I, for some reason, did move. And again, I'm just going to have to kind of see, like, maybe that wasn't the right move. I'm not sure. We'll just have to go and see. Let's look at the head again. Let's make sure that neck joint is influencing everything on this head here. Go to replace, paint that in. And I can paint the full head here. It's gonna probably, as I make my way to that head joint, now it's taking all the influence off of it. So maybe I can do that. Let's see. Let's go back to the neck, the head, and let's do some smoothing from the neck. Smooth that out a bit. I don't want that neck joint though to influence this part of the wing at all. So let's just get rid of that.